Hey everyone, Zephyr here, and welcome to yet another Sims 2 speed build. This build is also a custom content free build, and it's kind of unique. It's a abandoned house. If you didn't watch my last speed build video, I kind of went into it more, but basically I have a secret project that's not so secret. I am building a Sims 2 custom neighborhood from scratch, and I intend to share it sometime in the future. I want this neighborhood to be completely custom content free, and it's going to be based off of the maritime Canadian provinces, and I'm really excited for this project. The reason I did this abandoned house specifically is because somebody in my comment section actually suggested it. A abandoned house where teenagers can hang out and do nefarious things in the house. I really like the idea. Plus, around here in the Maritimes, there's a lot of old, like, abandoned farmhouses, like, on country roads, and I always really appreciated them and thought they were, like, beautiful in their own way, and I kind of wanted to replicate that experience in The Sims. That being said, I never went into one of these buildings myself. However, I've seen TikToks of people going into very similar buildings, and I find them incredibly interesting. When I was younger, I had dreams that I'd be urban exploring in my adulthood and going through these buildings and having a good old time. But now as an adult, I realize that there's probably tons of spiders and like mice and other critters that I'm not particularly fond of. I don't want to use the word fond because I think of that like TikTok where people are like, oh, the little mouse, the only crime is being small and you're there killing them. Like, okay, like, I'm scared of them. I'm not killing anything. It's just, like, they can go live their lives and, live full productive lives just away from me. I'm not trying to take that away from them. I just don't want them in my presence. And that's why me going through abandoned buildings probably isn't a good idea. I can live vicariously through my Sims or look at abandoned pictures on Reddit or watch YouTube videos of abandoned places. Like, I feel like I'm getting fulfilled in my need to see abandoned places without actually having to step foot in them and see all the, like, creepy crawlies or, like, even if you're not afraid of those kinds of things, there's still dangers to going into abandoned places. Like, some of those structures are not, like, up to code, and they could be just dangerous to walk into, so I think it's a good thing that I'm kind of staying away from them. Like I said, I imagine this house used to be a farmhouse, and the vibe I was going for was that there's still, like, certain items that the original owners or the last owners of this house left behind, but also it got ridiculously taken over by teenagers, and I tried to have both of those things represented in this house. Also, they somehow have electricity. I don't think most abandoned homes have electricity, but this house is technically fully functional. It's a Sims. We're not gonna look too deeply into it. Maybe they have generators. I don't know. But somehow these kids have electricity in this abandoned house. Honestly, it's not unheard of, though. Like, I've seen abandoned, like, recently-ish abandoned buildings still have electricity. So maybe this, like, older abandoned building still has electricity. I don't know. I don't think it was abandoned too long ago. I think it maybe within the last 10 or 20 sim years. I think the house was old before that, but people still lived in it, It was still relatively taken care of up until fairly recently in the sim world. So, that's the vibe I'm going for this house. Okay, pause. So I record these voiceovers in, like, multiple sessions. Sometimes I record the first part, like, Monday and finish it Saturday. It's just I have an attention span of a goldfish and I can't sit here and talk to myself for an extended period of time. It's a me problem, whatever. But I need to tell you about my day 2 days ago. The me you heard a couple sentences ago is a different person. Like, this day changed me. And I'm gonna tell you about it. So, on this day, I was supposed to be working a 11 to 7 shift at my job, right? So, I get up, I have this little morning routine of checking TikTok and checking Facebook. Don't judge me for checking Facebook. I don't post on it. I haven't uploaded a new profile picture in years. I mainly just use it to like see what the crazies are saying in the various groups I'm in, and seeing the city's latest gossip. It's a fun little thing I do in the mornings. Okay, it's my routine. It's the only way my grandmother has to like contact me a lot of the time, so I keep my Facebook up for that reason. Wait, actually, there was a reason why I woke up, because I forgot to add this part. I had woken up because the power was off, and in my room I have this power bank. The things you use to plug things into, like it's like a power outlet block. I don't even know what it's called. But anyways, a while ago I was having issues with my computer, where my computer would like randomly like shut off, like my old computer, and I thought this power bank was gonna like save the day. It didn't, but now I have it. And this power bank beeps when the power is off because it has like a battery in it, and instantly when the power is off, it likes to like scream at me saying, "Hey, I'm using the emergency power," right? So I was woken up by that a little bit early, and that's when I started checking Facebook and TikTok. And all over Facebook were people talking about this big power outage, so I knew it just wasn't my house. And then I saw that like the majority of the town I work in had the power off. So I was like, oh, well, maybe they'll cancel my shift. So we're all standing around there because they had already deep cleaned the store, because at that point it had been like 2 hours since the power was off and nobody thought to contact me or whatever. So we just sat there. Like 3 people were mad at us because they put mobile orders in, thinking that we would be somehow able to serve them. I don't get the logic behind this, because like, okay, the power's out like throughout the whole town. Why would you risk putting in a mobile order without calling to verify first? Like, I'd be worried about that. Like, we don't necessarily have a way to shut off orders, and if we did have a way to shut off the orders, like, we would need power in order to do that. And like, pulling up to the restaurant, it was very obvious to me that we were closed, because like the sign was off. We have an electronic sign in front of the store, and it was off. The lights were off in the restaurant, but like people kept pulling in thinking we were somehow open, and it was a little bit of a mess. And I was just standing there like wanting to be sent home early, and my boss was like, well, we gotta keep people in the store, right? And so I was just like, at one point, like 30 minutes into me being there, I was like, okay, fine, I'll just do NPC tasks that they probably already did before I got here. I was like wiping clean counters and, Windex and things. Like, I was literally so bored. And then my boss eventually sent home a couple people. And of course, once they got sent home, the power came back on, and it was a little bit of a mess. People started like coming in right away. Like, it takes a good 30-40 minutes for a restaurant to open after a power outage, okay? Like, it takes a while for the kitchen to get set up, and I don't think people realize that, because a couple people pulled up to my drive-thru, and I'm like, hey, it's gonna be like 20-30 minutes, like it's gonna be a second. And they're like, oh, and they like drive off. Like, I'm not, like, maybe they weren't aware that the power had just come on for us, but it was a struggle. But it's a weird phenomenon, because it wasn't just like today that I've had people like assume that fast food restaurants are just automatically ready like right away. At my old job, I used to open a lot, and like we've had people like pull up to the drive-thru window and knocking on it before open, asking me why we're not open or whatever. And I'm like, we only open at 11. And they're like, well, why are you here? And I just kind of like stare at them, and it's like, well, we gotta do prep. We gotta turn on the equipment. I don't get why people like think we just walk into the restaurant and it's all ready, because at the end of the day it's a restaurant. Fast food restaurants are restaurants, and you need to prepare food and get the equipment ready just like any other restaurant. But like, even though the power came back on at work that day, I didn't feel like they needed me because it was a Victoria Day and we were like really slow. Like, nobody was going out to eat, and the day was just boring, long, and at one point I had to like scrub bathrooms and I didn't feel like doing that. It was just, I'm complaining. That was like a good 5-minute rant about like nothing you guys care about, but I'm adding it into my Sims 2 speed build. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this house turned out. Like, I wanted it to be somewhat like a functional house. I wanted it to have the bathroom, the kitchen, beds even, and I also wanted it to look like a place where teenagers just bring in their stuff and, you know, rebel and do things that parents probably don't want them doing. I just thought it was a really fun concept, and if you download this build will be available on my Patreon. You could like turn this lot into a residential lot and maybe like make over it and use it as a home for your Sims. Like, I think this build is very like versatile, and I'm really proud of it, especially for a build that contains no custom content. I also think it would be a fun build to like maybe renovate and use custom content on, because I feel like custom content would be able to accentuate it a lot. But I think that's what I'm probably gonna be doing once this neighborhood is complete. I think I'm gonna release the custom content free version of the neighborhood and eventually do a let's play with all the Sims in this neighborhood. Maybe though I might edit some of the lots with custom content before playing with the Sims, just because there's some custom content that's like staples for me and that I'd want to add to this neighborhood. Like, I'd want to add like sim blenders to different lots, and maybe just to add more CC clutter in this build. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like once I'm done finishing this neighborhood, I'm gonna want to jump into gameplay like right away. Sorry about that little like sound, a little ASMR moment. I'm hitting my Vaseline jar. It's a thing. It actually makes a really pleasant sound. I wasn't doing it on purpose though, but I was doing it on purpose the other day. I was just kind of like scratching it and putting it close to my ear, and I'm like, yeah, that's like ASMR in real life. I don't need ASMR videos. I have it right here. I don't know. I'm weird. So yeah, maybe I'll just like add like little touches of custom content when I eventually play this Let's Play. I don't know. We'll see. But then again, I kind of like the idea of just like playing it in its like raw form, how it's meant to be played, because sometimes I feel like dirty trying to renovate Pleasantview, because it's like, that's not how Will Wright intended it, okay? Like, I don't know. I struggle between adding custom content to pre-made builds and not adding custom content, but this isn't technically a pre-made build, it's my build, so I don't know. We'll see what the vibes are when the time comes. But yeah, here we are working on the second floor. Would I actually go on the second floor of a old abandoned farmhouse? Probably not. I'd be scared that I would fall through the ceiling or something. But these Sims are brave, and they are just taking over the whole farmhouse. I was actually scared I was gonna fall through the ceiling the last time I stayed in a hotel in Halifax, and honestly, like, I don't think that was an assumption that that was too far off. Okay, that's being dramatic. It's just, I got into the bathtub and it just felt like really hollow underneath me, like in the bathtub, and my intrusive thoughts were like, dude, what if this just collapses and I somehow like end up plummeting like a bunch of floor. I don't know. That's how my brain works. And like every time I like stood in that shower, I was like, oh no, this is bad. But yeah, I knew like logically I was not gonna collapse through the ceiling. But like in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe it's a possibility. Oh, another reason why I made this build in particular is because I'm kind of in a spooky mood. Like, I've been re-entering my Dead by Daylight era. I hadn't played in a couple years, but I recently put in a good 20 hours into the game, so I think I'm into it again. I mainly play Survivor. I actually just recently hit 1,000 hours total, and you would think this would mean that I was a good Dead by Daylight player. But you would be mistaken. Like, if you see me in your lobbies, like, if you play the game and you see me in your lobbies, I will be sandbagging you, not on purpose, just because I am so incompetent when it comes to the game, but I find it fun. So, I'm sorry if you ever encounter me in Dead by Daylight. I use the same username as I use on here. But to be fair, I mainly play Survivor, and that's one of the harder game modes, okay? You can't tell me that Killer is easier in that game. It's not. I played Killer for the first time in like 3-4 years yesterday, and I almost got a 4K. The only reason I didn't get the 4K was because the last survivor got the hatch, and I wasn't like being particularly sweaty. Like at the end of the game, I was kind of letting them get the hatch, and they were like try hard good survivors. Okay, they had flashlights, they were trying to rescue their team, and me, who hasn't played the game in forever, like especially on the Killer side, managed to kill almost all of them. So that tells you about the state of the game, and I think it's a kind of decent excuse for me to be bad at Survivor, because it's the harder game mode. A very niche audience will care about the rant, but for those of you who do, I appreciate you. Even if you disagree with my take, people are pretty passionate in the DBD community about which side is harder. It's kind of fun to read the drama on Reddit and Twitter sometimes. I'm not particularly strongly opinioned about it. Like, I have my side, obviously, but if you think differently than me, that's fine too. Anyway, we are getting towards the end of the video now. Like I said before, this build is available on my Patreon for free if you would like to download it. I'm having so much fun with this project so far. Like, it's challenging to build without custom content, but it's kind of cool to see what the game can just do on its own, because I've been using custom content in The Sims 2 since pretty much the beginning of my time playing The Sims 2, so it's kind of nice to appreciate the vanilla game a little bit. That being said, I do feel like custom content in The Sims 2 elevates your game. It's an older game, and custom content just kind of like updates it to modern standards, so I do feel like it is important. I can't imagine myself going without it, but it is fun to kind of like experience the game how it's meant to be sometimes. But anyway, we are getting towards the end of the video now. If you guys liked it, please give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye, guys.